Somebody once told me that the measure of a good conference was that people attending saw it as a swan gliding across the sea. But underneath, the feet are going like this. And we've been solving problems this morning, not least of all that some of us can't actually speak properly. And with the accident to Shirley, which has kind of upset things a little bit, we're running, as you know, perhaps a little bit late. But if you look at the program, you'll see we actually have a 20-minute session before lunch, which has been left free. So it's not too bad. We're actually going to hit lunch dead on time, if not a little bit early. So don't worry too much about that. In 2004, 2005, a group of psychiatric nurses met in Holland to discuss the fact that there was no representation of psychiatric and mental health nursing in Europe. The European Federation of Nursing did not have a psychiatric section, and the voice of our profession was lost. And it was decided that some kind of affiliative organizational structure needed to be put together to be able to enable something to take place, even if it was just a collection of individuals who could share ideas, share principles, and come together on a regular basis to be able to help each other. And it was from that that the Psychiatric Nursing Work Group was constructed. And in 2005, in the Czech Republic, the first proper meeting of that group came together. And other countries were invited to attend, and at that meeting there were about 14 different countries. We changed the name from the Psychiatric Nursing Work Group, the PIN to something that we now all know as Horatio. And for those of you that still don't know, Horatio doesn't stand for anything, it stands for a principle. And I'll come to that in a second. But Des Kavanagh was an individual who was part and parcel of those early negotiations, and it became apparent to us when we were trying to identify people who could take on board responsibilities that Des would be an ideal candidate to be the first president of this organization. And duly he was elected at that first meeting. And he remained at the helm of Horatio for the next 10 years. And I had the good fortune to work with him as the chair of the expert panel and the consultant to the board, and similarly as one of the founding fathers of this organization, was always aware that this was a man who knew where we were going, even if we didn't. And he was a man who we trusted, he was a man who knew the political activities well, he knew how to behave, he knew how to use a laptop, and he was generally a father to us all, and he was a father to Horatio. Now Horatio, of course, is from King Lear. It's one of Shakespeare's characters, and for those of you that need that little bit of history, the idea behind King Lear was that there was a man, King Lear was a troubled man, and he often explored his inner self and the depths of depravity that his brain went to. And his friend and colleague was Horatio, and Horatio was always the man who would be with him during the good times and the bad times. He was the only man that he trusted. And it was Des, myself, and the first General Secretary, Roland, who decided that actually calling ourselves after a character who stood for what we believed in was probably better than calling ourselves the Willy Wibble, the Pingwig, the Whip Wap. Everybody calls themselves something which is an acronym. So we decided to do something a little bit different. And I've had to repeat that story thousands of times ever since 2005, which actually is a good thing, because it means that people are looking to what Horatio is, and that was always Des's principle. Let's make ourselves known, let's be worthy of the title of Horatio, and let's give ourselves an opportunity to create a base for psychiatric and mental health nursing to operate in Europe and have a voice both at European level but also nationally and with local organisations. So for me, working with Des Kavanagh in Horatio has been an education, but it's also been a delight because he is a charming and and delightful man. And the slides, the pictures that you can see, give some indication of, I was going to say, he's not here, so I was going to say, it always gives you some indication of the suits that Des would wear. He always had these wonderful pin-striped suits, and he always looked a dapper man. And that photograph there was taken in 2014, when Des was made a Knight of the Malta Knights of St. John. And that's the fake, the fake individual who's knighting him there. But of course Des knew nothing about this, and he's sitting in the front row, and all of a sudden we grabbed hold and put a hat on, a cape, and made him kneel down in front of somebody with a big sword, and I think he wondered what was going to happen next. But anyway, a charming man, a delightful work for, and Horatio benefited hugely by having him as our first president. Now this fellowship award is very special because we decided quite some time ago that a fellowship was needed by this organisation to honour individuals who've made a contribution to psychiatric mental health nursing, primarily in Europe, but not necessarily. And it's now been approved by the board, and what's going to happen is that individual organisations who are members of Horatio will be able to nominate people that they feel, who they feel is worthy of, from their own perspective, in their own countries, of being honoured in terms of a fellowship. And the board will choose the recipients of this, and 2 or 3 a year will be honoured in this way, and they will become life fellows of Horatio. One of the things, I suppose, and it doesn't have to be somebody who's retired, but of course what happens when people retire is for a couple of years their work is remembered, and then they just become a name on a plaque. And it's really important that we keep their names fresh. And so that's the intention of Horatio. And in future, the fellowship will become an integral part of our, not just our website, but also our organisation. So that's how we get here, that's how we got here. Des Kavanagh is going to be the first recipient of this. But my colleagues want to talk a little bit about their experiences in working with him before we actually make the award.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Martin has quite rightly given you an introduction to the Horatio Honorary Fellowship Award, the intentions behind it and the reasons why this award would go to Des Kavanagh. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Culhane. I work as the Research and Development Advisor with the Psychiatric Nurses Association in Ireland and the current General Secretary of Horatio. It was our intention to actually give this award to Des today, but unfortunately his father passed away on Wednesday, and so he can't be here with us. So rather than give an award and not explain the context, I'm just going to go through a little bit of the achievements Des, I suppose, championed in Ireland and indeed in Horatio, and just to give some context as to why Des has been chosen to be given the first Honorary Fellowship Award. So I suppose I should say to you that for the past 10 years I've been privileged to have enjoyed the company of Des as both a colleague and friend. And briefly I'm going to reference some of the major highlights of the career of a man who could be described as strong-minded, principled, independent, committed, but with absolute integrity of character. And I have over the last few weeks chatted with Des, coaxing him into revisiting his nursing career, and with characteristic modesty reviewed some of the milestones of his epic journey with Horatio and P&A, whilst also providing a fresh and objective appraisal of the economic, financial, industrial relations and professional events that have shaped modern psychiatric mental health nursing. So for those of you who don't know, internationally the Irish are considered skillful and proficient storytellers, perhaps. And those of you who know Des well will know this is indeed a gift, amongst others he has mastered well. Des chooses stories that make it easy for his audience, no matter who, to connect with him on a personal and emotional level. I've witnessed this with our Irish members, our board members in the P&A, the Psychiatric Nurses Association of Ireland, and Horatio, the Labour Court, government, ministerial level. Des brings people with him. His narratives are designed to help understand the issues, and Des' storytelling is the ultimate tool of persuasion. For this organisation, Horatio, he has been a consistent and loyal presence, the rationale and informed voice behind many of the most momentous episodes in Horatio history. This portrait endeavours to tell Des' story, a man that has made an indelible impression on so many, both past and present. So I should tell you that he qualified as a psychiatric nurse in 1974 in a hospital in North Dublin, and he commenced his postgraduate studies in the Faculty of Nursing in the Royal College of Surgeons, and over the following 9 years accumulated 8 postgraduate diplomas and completed a primary fellowship before being awarded a fellowship in 1985. So that is very early in the history of nursing, to be awarded 8 postgraduate diplomas and a fellowship in 1985. He always said that his studies in the faculty contribute to a reservoir of knowledge into which he regularly delved when dealing with challenges in the workplace and in life in general. Des had been involved in our association, the Psychiatric Nurses Association, from the beginning of his career as a student nurse, but he came to national prominence in 1986 as a staff representative when he led the campaign as the chairman of the Action Committee opposed to the then government's announcement to close the local psychiatric hospital. His position was not that it shouldn't be closed, but his position was, we will not let you close us now, but if you give us the facilities in the community, we will close the hospital for you. Does that sound familiar? Over the last 25 years, Des has been at the forefront of many campaigns on behalf of the nursing profession and has regularly featured in the print media, radio, TV news programmes. He sat on several boards and commissions, including the Nurse Regulatory Board of Ireland. And in 2006, as Martin presented, he was elected President of the European Organisation for Psychiatric Nursing, Horatio, and was re-elected annually until 2014, when he retired in preparation for his planned retirement from the Psychiatric Nurses Association. Des Kavanagh retired 2 weeks ago. He says he will look back with great satisfaction on his contribution to the development of the nursing profession, including the transition of nurse education from certificate level to honours degree level, the very significant enhancement of the pay and conditions of nurses over the last 25 years. Sorry, 2 drops here. The development of clinical career pathways and the recent agreement which will see 1% of mental health nursing posts operating at advanced nurse practitioner level in Ireland. The schemes now in place in Ireland for the financial protection of nurses injured by assault at work. Des lists many achievements on his record, but for your information, his favourite achievement was when, in the early 1990s, he brought an end to the practice whereby thousands of nurses, predominantly married women, were confined to temporary contracts for up to 40 years, without access to increments or pensions. Following the Labour Court's findings in the case taken by Des, thousands of women had to be appointed to permanent posts in the public service, with access to large pay increases and pensions. But Des is quick to point out that many of his achievements were on behalf of organisations in Horatio and P&A, with people with vision and colleagues who are equally committed to improving the lot of the nurse, and indeed the services for those who we care. He believes his greatest contribution to both Horatio and the P&A was in giving leadership to fantastic nurses and volunteers, who have continued to better services for those who experience mental distress and better conditions of employment for nurses. As Martin has said, in 2004, with like-minded mental health nurses from Malta and the Netherlands, he joined in the process of building Horatio, the organisation for mental health nurses across Europe. He has been delighted to see the organisation develop and flourish and has been pleased to witness the development of its role in advising the various organs of the EU on mental health nursing matters. Des was particularly proud to have been chosen to receive the first Honorary Horatio Fellowship Award, and it is regretful that he cannot be here to receive it due to the sad passing of his father. He sends his very best wishes and support to all of you attending the 4th Horatio Festival, particularly to our hospitable and committed hosts here in Malta, and most especially on behalf of Des and the Irish delegation, we wish to express our sincere gratitude to the Board of Horatio, colleagues and friends, all of you who have made the last 3 days a truly collaborative experience. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm currently the co-chair of the expert panel, together with Michael. But I've been the General Secretary for about 6 years, and which is typical for Des. He's still in Ireland, but he's present in my head. And he also has been my mentor, or what you call a good father. Because in the period I was General Secretary, we actually managed to be invited by the European Commission to contribute on the mental health pact developments, the consensus papers, etc. There were a lot of political issues around this meeting, and he learned, all of us, I think, if you fight for human rights and fight for the rights of psychiatric nursing, you're never alone. And he actually knew how to play the game, so I could always ask for advice, and he actually was a good role model for us. I can remember that we have been traveling to several countries that didn't have a psychiatric association at all. And sometimes the nursing association were the worst enemy, in fact. They didn't want to have the separate section for psychiatric nurses. So in some countries we actually learned that psychiatrists were very supportive of having this association for our colleagues. And then once this was established, actually it really worked well with the nursing association in the end. But you have to start somewhere. And so I think it's very, he needs really this award, because he actually, we managed to grow from 10 countries to 26 countries. And this was a remarkable achievement. And he always mentioned we have to be inclusive, regardless of language. So he actually took time to find time for translations, for visiting other festivals. We actually had also some symposia when we had meetings. We also thought we should offer and collect information as well. So it should be a mutual process at all times. So I think he was very inclusive, and this is also at the moment we are still inclusive. We want to be inclusive for the rest of the years. So thank you, Des, and I think you have a really well-deserved award. Thank you.
Right, it's my great pleasure to invite Mr. Hughes, who's the General Secretary of the Psychiatric Nurses Association of Ireland, to come up on the platform and receive this award from the fraternity, the brother and sisterhood that we call Horatio, Psychiatric Nurses in Europe, on behalf of an absent Mr. Des Kavanagh.